In a world where insanity reigns supreme and manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, it's comforting to know fat, long-haired, bearded reprobate has your mind in mind. And boys and girls, children of all ages, broadcasting behind enemy lines, California, and despite every attempt by the SHR Media Network to all out of puppy.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, to the bloviating Zeppelins, Berserk, Bobcat, Saloon radio show, live and direct right here from the sumptuous and palatial Network Studios. You got a belly up to the bar. We've kept to see you back. Tonight is Thursday, the last day of February. February, BZ. February. 28th, the year of our Lord 2019. Okay, I can say 2019. You got a belly up to the bar, we've kept your seat, and it's great to see you back, definitely. Biff, tendered tonight. He pours with the best of them, and you can see that, in fact, the lava lamp is, in fact, light. My left, your right. You can also listen and chat at shrmedia.com and watch on the SHR Media page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the Saloon. But the booze is not. All that we ask is that you flush the toilet, jiggle the handle, and don't to tip your waitress. Again, I reiterate, thanks to all the people that are tuning in now, because I'm now broadcasting for the second night, continuous now, from the Redcon, and thanks to the people that are already in the SHR chat. Looks like the Alaskan, Mary Brockman, Dave Miller, one go over here. Click on another tab and then refresh. I might be able to see if I'm nibbling away at the Redcon 1 Media Network. Well, there it is. Oh, it's live. Great. All right. All right, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I met a guy at Free, which is a gathering of libertarians that occurs every year in Las Vegas. Let's put it this way. For the past, 4 years right now, it's occurred in a couple of different Las Vegas. But the Freedom Fest is a congealment, a whole bunch of basically libertarians. I refer to myself as a conservatarian, and that's libertarian, not big L, but little l. What I mean by that is things that libertarians believe in that I do not. And because I've seen the consequences direct of some of the things that they advocate, the two problems that I have with libertarians, go ahead, unleash hell on me. I believe in open borders, which I vehemently do not. I am not an open borders person. We are a genuine, unique, sovereign nation, and it's a republic if we can fit. I'm beginning to wonder, and that's part and parcel of what the show Redcon 1 listeners, thanks for being here again. Thanks for your comments. I was a Republican. Well, let me go back with my story a little bit. When I was I've been around for a while, in San Francisco, I knew where that was. I used to live in San Francisco for a while. I had friends on a corner, second-story walk-up with the curved windows at the corner of and Ashbury. So I saw all about what that was like. And then a funny thing happened to me. I got a job. And that was I got a series of jobs, early 70s. And you know what, brothers and sisters? Once I started making a paycheck and having to pay taxes really meant, and how big a chunk those taxes took out of my paycheck, I began to pay a lot more attention to where my money went. As I began to feel, oddly enough, I was taking umbrage at it. It was my money. I earned it by the fruits of my labors, of my brow. Not of my bra. Okay, that's a story for another time there. I know what you're thinking. But I changed. Now, I was still a registered Democrat. And then the year 80 came around. And I began to witness what Jimmy Carter, what he didn't do, the two biggest things that I 90 miles away from Cuba. I expect most everybody knows that. And so, he'd been in law enforcement. I wasn't really politically oriented. Jimmy Carter give away the Panama Canal. Then I began to think tactically. Wait a minute. Hold on, that car wash. Didn't we build that? Wasn't it our labors that did that? Wasn't it our money that did that? To make States of America, because up to that point you had to go all the way down around South Africa and Cape Horn. And Lord knows if you're a big oil tanker, large ships, etc., that's not a pleasant place to be. Jimmy Carter just gave that crap away. And then the American hostages back from Iran, which was essentially the creator of the Delta Force, and he cocked up that thing. I think at that point I was pretty much done with Democrats. So then I began very closely to Ronald Reagan, who was elected essentially in a landslide. And it was President Reagan that made me want to go and be Republican. And I can never remember being prouder of my nation than listening to Ronald Reagan, to his speeches, etc., and I could go on and on and on. Well, as I frequently want to say, the Republican Party left me. I didn't leave it. And so I ended up re-registering. Don't enjoy rhinos. You can make them out of any combination of words, rhinos, dinos, mine, etc. But we really do have rhinos in Republican tent. And I really don't think that that's going to change. Independent. I go wherever I want to go. Not that. I would much rather be a registered Republican, but I cannot in good conscience do that. I sent I used to get queries from me because I used to put my money where my mouth was. And I would say, well, you well know that if you send any entity a check on their mailing list from now until perpetuity, until the end of time. And then they enjoy the letters that I would send back to them attached to their emails and requests for cash. And now, Republican that I support, and there are a few. Tom McClintock is one of them. Used to be my Congress critter here. But they redrew the districts, and the BZ's area up at the 4,000-foot level off of Interstate 80 in the Sierra, and I enjoyed him. And then there was Trump. And again, this is a sort of a spooling up, if you will, for the people that have never, the people that are in chat right now on SHR, Mary Brockman, Dave Milner, the Alaskan, Kaiser Schuff, whom I'll be calling just a little bit Kaiser, one viewer. You've heard my spiel before. So this is for the new people that are listening on one. And again, thanks very much for listening. Because I know especially on the East Coast, 11 o'clock, 11:13 right now, you got a lot of choices. Sleep. And yet you elected to be here with me tonight, which is why I very much appreciate it. So I'm going back and letting people who are just beginning to listen to the show understand where it is that I'm coming from. And like I said, then came Trump, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, who I was not going to vote for. My guy was Ted Cruz. Now, Ted Cruz cocked up a couple during his campaign. who's perfect. The only perfect politician that thinks the exact same way that I do is, well, me. And I'm a retired guy. And I was not going to vote for Trump. And then all the guns began to emerge and began to fire at Donald Trump. And the more that a series of unfair events were arrayed against him, and I began to realize that essentially everyone was against this guy. Democrats, the American media maggots, many, many, many Republicans, whom I came to not only just dislike, but I have to be honest, I despise. John McCain is dead. I couldn't care less. John McCain well changed his R to a D. We've got a ton of rhinos in the Republican Party. And then after looking at all the massive forces that were arrayed, it becomes that she was conducting her campaign. I could either vote for Hillary Clinton or after essentially Donald John Trump won the GOP, it became that kind of a decision. Okay, do I sign Buttercup and go for the orange hair guy? Because I knew I wasn't going to go for Hillary Clinton. And so I decided, okay, a gulp of air and I'll vote for Donald Trump for two reasons. Both he has already successfully accomplished to this point. So, you know, every win that Donald Trump gets beyond about, I don't know, January, the end of January, February, March, April, everything beyond, as far as I'm concerned, it's gravy. It's a bonus, an addendum. The president, number one. The president, Hillary Clinton. Massive reason for me. Massive issue. Second point. If you control these two venues in the United Snakes of America, occasion, two is SCOTUS. I don't see conservatives getting education back in the near future. So, and leftists, because this is their master plan, leftists don't get their way. The first thing they do is run to court. And eventually, it goes to the Supreme Court of the United States. And 9 black-robed justices sit and weigh on these measures. And so, when, not Alito, God, now I can't think of the guy's name. This is sad. Somebody in chat tell me the guy's name. Great justice. The Italian dude. He passed away. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a fight. This is going to be a fight. This is going to be a terrible fight. And it was. It was a nasty fight. It was a terrible. Neil Gorsuch was installed. And I thought that was a pretty good decision. Okay. That looks like my requirements. Now, we have 2 associate justices notice. One of 2 things is going to happen that people have indicated. I firmly believe that President Trump is going to get a 3rd vacancy in SCOTUS. And I think he's likely going to fill it, probably at this point, with Amy Coney Barrett, whose religion, Dianne Feinstein, her dogma, her Catholic dogma lives large inside. You evil bitch, you're religious. And that's what it's getting down to as far as leftists are concerned these days. The other thing is, can't not pay attention to this. And Donald Trump has been paying attention to appellate courts and the lesser judicial courts and the D.C. court. And he's been making kind of sub rosa, covertly. That's a good thing, too. And then all these various commitments. Scalia. Thank you, Kaiser. Antonin Scalia. And then Donald John Trump, all these commitments. And he's been seeing them through, all these promises, air quotes, that he made during his campaign, and I'll be a son of a bitch, those are starting to come true also. Bonus again. So, where I thought I was going to have a hell of a lot of heartache with regard to Trump, it's turning out to be almost exactly the opposite. Now, yes, is he a brawler? Yes. Is he rude? Yes. Can he be crude? Yes. Alleged that he's had affairs. This new black chick came out, and there was a lot of breast beating. See what I did there? About he had some kind of an affair, blah, 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 blah. I have to tell you quite frankly, years ago, I was in Oregon, and I'm driving down this street which parallels I-5 in Oregon, and I am looking at a bar, and there's this little bar east side of the street, and it says Dilligaff's. And it took me the longest time before I realized that purposely representative of my thoughts about some of the things about, do I look like I give a fuck? And the answer is no. Again, this is late night talk show material. The kiddies should already have been put in bed. Hey, Iggy Mom, good to see you. So I became a supporter of Donald John Trump. And then when I looked again at the continuous, the likes of which I have never seen arrayed against any politician in life. And this dude with the crazy ass hair is like Teflon. And more and more and more, it completely pisses off media maggots. And I've gotten to the point where, I don't know about you guys, people at Redcon 1, my guess is you are in the same boat. My guess is when you began to support Donald John Trump, see, I'm rambling. When you began to support Trump, I bet you lost friends. I did. I bet you lost acquaintances. I did. You even lost some family members. You may have lost some family members along the way who really don't want to have anything to do with you anymore, and perhaps the feeling is similar. I have. Am I doing anything about that? No. So I am firmly ensconced, just to let the new viewers and listeners know, I am firmly ensconced in the niche of, I'm over here on the right. Donald John Trump has made pretty much everybody fish or cut bait. You know by now who you are, and what you support. And I support this nation. I support its sovereignty. I served. Now, I didn't do military service. My service was in law enforcement. 41 years of service. I made a hell of a lot of sacrifices. I was shot at 4 times, returned a situation that I got into in another agency, and I ended up shooting, killing somebody. I went through hell, and at the Citizens, all sorts of venues made my life for a very long time. Happened, like almost 40 years ago. I can and I mean this with the greatest amount of sincerity and the greatest amount of love to this person. Fuck you. You're dead and I'm not. Anyway, that having been said, I am all about the United States of America, and I firmly believe Donald Trump is too. I believe firmly that he backs our military. I firmly believe that he backs our officers. And I bet for the first time in a long time, a lot of the people, they like this guy. And they really would lay down their lives for this. I would lay down my life for this nation. Damn. I've gone 26 minutes and I haven't even called Kaiser yet because I'm off on a rant. Just to let the Redcon 1 folks know a little bit about me and my background. I'm in my 7th day. I'm not a young man. Kaiser. There are things that I've seen and done that you will never know about. Many will never know about. Things that I've had the opportunity to do, to see, gin, things that I took oaths to protect, things that I raised my right hand and said something similar to, I will never divulge the contents of what it is that I did on behalf of the United States of America. Because you know what? Here's another thing that I should tell you. I'm an oath keeper, I'm a silverback, and I'm a sheepdog. And just like, for example, Marine is always a Marine, a military member, a member of law enforcement is a sheepdog. And I'm still a sheepdog. We'll talk about this in the second hour, specifically regarding the Second Amendment. And folks, when you get training, education, and experience, and my mindset, my physicality, not my body, it's gone to crap. I'll be the first to admit it. All you have to do is look at my ass. But me and other people like me who support this country, if you want a fight, bring it. I have the kind of mindset that a 21-year-old or a 30 or some millennial or Gen Zer doesn't have. Regard, because I've paid a heavy, very heavy prices to be here today. If push comes to shove, a lot of people are saying a civil war is coming. Don't know. Not advocating for it. I can guarantee you one thing. And I swear, and I tell this to you honestly, and I think people who know me know that when I say this, I am not kidding. Venue in some fashion. I am not going to play fair.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Sha.
Politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 on shrmedia.com.
From a updated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals, truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every week on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com and Lid Radio. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys club anymore, and we don't have to show ours anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Tees and hats for the patriotic, concealed carry, and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? CarryGirlGear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. You to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk.
New show on the SHR Media Network, Against Tyranny, on shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday, live and direct on the SHR Media Network, shrmedia.com.
Years I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud Media and the Western Free Radio Network for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative me done right. You're listening to the SHR Media.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children, 2 miles east of the locus of evil on this planet, where late at night, through that door right over there, and I open it up, I hear the cries and moans of the deaths of common sense in that building. I smell the noxious, terrible, deadly vapors of sulfur and never quite know what's going to issue forth from the Capitol building in Sacramento. Well, somehow I realize that I'm going to have to kind of craft my show for a lot of the newer listeners that are here that are not always constructs of BZ's show. And I have a ton of some people that come here over a number of times. Dave Milner, for example, is going to be here next week, Tuesday night. And his specialty is EDL. We talk about Tommy Robinson, EDL, and basically how Islam influences us. Studio, an expert on Islam who has written quite a number of books. He's a world-renowned speaker. The man's name is James E. Horn. And he's going to be live in the studio. It just happens that way. And I'm very, very happy to hear. That's a show, because it's live. This is interesting. Because I'm on late at night, and I warn you, I tell you that very topics come up and very frank discussions occur. Some people hedge their bets. And the reasons that I like internet or wireless over the interwebs is, hey, welcome to Simone Says, is because I tend to get out of people things that they wouldn't say in other venues, and that's why I like interviewing people. How many radio shows do you listen to terrestrial? And your question, the question that you had is never asked, that the damn host won't let the guest talk. Take a big cup of shut the hell up. Talk show host. Let the people respond to you. That's why I like to have a full hour minimum for the people that come on. Well, of the people that come on, let's introduce Kaiser Schuff. Kaiser, are you there?
Oh, yeah. How's it going, BZ, brother?
Excellent, excellent. Now, as I indicated, because you've never, as far as Redcon 1 listeners are concerned, they've never, I know for a fact that you've called in a couple of times, and to, I believe, Big Sarge, I think, has had you on the show a couple of times. You've called in.
Yep.
But I like you call in to the Redcon 1 media network. What I'd like to do, because I think you're a way cool cat, Keel, in terms of how we perceive the planet, the galaxy, and this lovely, beautiful, blessed nation of ours. We see eye to eye on a ton of stuff, but because some people may not know, and of course I'll let you vet as you see fit, and there are certain things I will not mention about you, but a little bit about yourself, where you came from, what you've done, what now, and I know that you're gonna censor a little bit, but I'd give people a sense of who you are and what you've done, if you would, please.
Yeah, that's not a problem. In the U.S. Army as a military policeman, had to have permission from my mom because I got out of school 1 year early. High school, I'm talking about. Then I went into the Marine Corps at 20 to boot camp, of course, at Paris. From there, I went to Lackland Air for some training as a military policeman.
Okay.
bounced into Camp Pendleton, on the SRT team out there for my last year.
Okay.
Got out with the National Guard, worker for 5 years, putting myself through school. I worked in 3 separate federal agencies. Worked in the Near East, NFA Kalamatabi. I speak Arab terminology. I use the same terminology with any expert. I don't like that word. Experts die all the time, and they're wrong. And, I've actually had to correct a subject matter expert in Afghanistan when I was working for Democracy International.
But the reason that I wanted you to mention that is because I want people to understand me have a history of discipline and sacrifice. I've told this story before, and it made you laugh at one time, so I'll tell it again to the people at Redcon 1. With my age, I should have gone to Vietnam. But in Vietnam, I should have gone, and at the time, another little thing that you and I, because at one time you did, and at one time I did, live in Ohio. And in stay on that, you got to fill in your little card and you send it in. Well, I did that in Ohio. What I didn't discover for years and years later, and it was one of those things where, and then I got involved in life. I got involved in law enforcement. It really didn't, I didn't think of it ahead. Life happened, basically. Life is what happens when you're planning to do other things. What I didn't know is that all of the selective service records for the state of Ohio were held in a little teeny town called Chillicothe, Ohio. What I also didn't know was that there was a big-ass tornado that went and leveled Ohio. And all those records went, well, who knows where. And it was only years later when people would ask me, okay, well, what have you done? Where have you been? What's your CV? Why didn't I get called up? So I started to do some research, made a few phone calls, etc. And that's exactly I and whoever's record happened to be in there, all our civil service records. Who knew what a digit was? Anything digital had to be on your hand. That's as digitized as any of that stuff got. So I went a series of careers of sacrifice and discipline, and that is what you and I have in common. You went the military, and that is why I respect you. And when you say something, I know is crafted and molded and hewed and observed in the crew.
I saw law enforcement from both the civilian side and the military side. So I like that fact because as a federal cop, I see it on the civilian side, and they are two separate entities.
Yes, they are.
A lot of people don't understand that a civilian cop can't do what a military cop does at all, unless they are military. And everybody who's in the military, that's a policeman or a law enforcement officer, LEO, are not military police. Master at Arms in the Navy and their security forces. Same with Air Force security forces. They are not, even if they're LEOs, they're not MPs. They don't do EPW. They don't do NEO-ops. There's a route reconnaissance, and a military policeman does do that. And we called ourselves combat cops both in the Army and Marine. That's exactly what we were. And it proves itself out every time I cycle back. A military policeman is it's an enigma. A lot of people don't understand until you're doing it, but it's still the same thing. It's a job, and you still have to enforce. And one thing that's interesting that a lot of people don't understand, under the UCMJ, military policemen in time of war, let me be very clear on this, a deserter that's caught out of the military, out of his section or whatever, a manslaughter. I'd say, can you actually shoot somebody running away from a gunfight? And their answer is always to go, oh, yeah, if you can shoot him. No, I'm talking about one of your brothers that's in the gunfight with you. Well, no, of course we can't. Well, you see, a military policeman can do that. And he has to instill good order and discipline during time of war. And that's what regular control. There's a lot to it, but you have to be judicious in it because you're going to have to send the paperwork up to the provost marshal's office.
Magic witching hour of midnight. March 1st is the anniversary of the death, Bart.
The assassination, yeah.
Can you imagine what the realm of conservative thought would be if Andrew Breitbart were still here. That was a very, very serious loss.
Well, we've had a bunch of them. I mean, Scalia, I loved him up earlier. And on Scalia, a brilliant legal mind. He was on a Democratic ranch owner's place for some reason. He did not have the requirement. There was a lot that was strange about that story. Found with a pillow over his head.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that did not pass the smell test. I'll be the first to admit that.
And then he wanted to put in Gorsuch, and thank God they, of course, wait because we know Hillary will get in. Well, Trump's had to replace him. He also got to replace, I can't think of the other justice's name.
Kennedy.
Yeah, and soon, I don't know how she's still even in there because she can't be doing her job, but, RBG
right.
for these people that go their house.
In their living room. That's true. And they were involved in various bombs in San Francisco at the time because I lived through that. I was there for that. The SD, all of those lovely little people, the Red Army faction, all of that stuff was big, large, and in charge when I was in college. I saw all that stuff. I heard about all that stuff. Lived through that stuff in San Francisco.
Well, they used to say, this is back in the day, they used to say that the weathermen and SDS, all buildings. No, I remember when I got out of the Marine Corps. And not most did. Well, guess what, folks? They were trying to burn down the ROTC building. They'd been Rock and Kill You, think David and Goliath.
Yeah.
I mean, I love how the narrative, he has been doing this for years, too. They'll make the most obscene look to be acceptable. And there is a culture war just because everybody's seeing when the left wants to euthanize babies, and they're showing when you fail to respect the smallest among us, the smallest life, then your society's in decline. That's all I have to say on that, brother.
No, that's very, very true. And the SDS, the Weather Underground, and also the SLA. I failed to mention the SLA, Liberation Army, and Patty Hearst and Sin Q.
Yep.
I saw the evidence of what that was like. I was working at the Crocker Bank in Rancho Cordova, got robbed by the SLA and also by Patty Hearst carrying guns into the Crocker Bank where a person was killed. Oh, that's right. About that.
Yep.
Those were the times, the tumultuous times that and you and I both know, my brother.
That trips my trigger on a couple things. Remember the woman from Skelter, Charles Manson's group, Frome.
Oh, yeah.
Squeaky
Frome.
She took pot shots at President Ford.
Yes.
People forget that one. Reagan's assassin, Hinckley. People remember that George Bush, the insanity of this stuff, if they think everything that we're talking about is new, even they just called themselves anti-racist action. It's the same thing.
Yeah, they're still brown, okay? They're still the brown shirts, just in today. But they Holy Mother of God, and that's also part and parcel of people. This is why I said, and then you also said, education is critical. We've lost a good portion of education. I can only hope that we get it back. But this nation and individual have, I believe, purposely historical Alzheimer's. And George Santayana said, essentially, those who fail to learn lessons from history are doomed to repeat it again and again and again. And we're seeing that now. Socialism! Whoever thought that we would have a president of the United States during a State of the Union speech say something like, and I'm not going to support socialism. Are you kidding me? And the answer is no, we're not. This is where America is, right?
I fucking agree with you. Yes. And it's always been about getting into the system and corrupting it. They've also worked themselves into the federal service at the highest levels. When you have an outright communist, Muslim convert being the head of our intelligence agency, we have a problem here. The FBI was corrupted at its very upper echelon. out. Now you have the Democrats. They won back the House, and they're trying to make. I'll tell you what. You talking about Teflon Don? That's the truth, because the more they throw, the bigger he becomes. This whole thing they did while he was in Korea, I think that's going to blow.
Well,
not in Korea, but in Vietnam. I'm talking to the
cautious when I say something like this, and I'll be honest for probably me say something like this, but I think I'm not the only one in this position. Abortion to me was not an issue that I placed on my shoulder and clutched to my heart, because I'll be
right.
Whether that's good or bad, it's just the way it is.
Right.
And it wasn't an issue that I or against in particular, because it never really affected me, except when you have people on any given political side who are trying to tell me that it's okay just before birth, or it's okay post-birth. Post-birth, for any reason, it's not only advocated to kill the weakest amongst us. That's when you took me out of, kind of indifferent to campuses, and discovered that there is more concern for a cat or a tree frog than there is for a human being. And
even a snow darter.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
This fashion, I'm sorry. We have to. No, I'm not. Fuck it. We have to draw a line. Kurt Schlichter's been on my show 3 times now, and he calls himself, and people like me and you, he calls us normal. We're normal. They're not.
Right.
But us militant normals, because we've been pushed so far that we become militant about our normality. What the fuck?
I agree. Yeah, I agree. When you can actually have a protest over statues go completely and politicized, lied about, it amazes me when I see different things. Look, like you said, those who forget their history are doomed to repeat it. There's a reason why I like it. And to tear them down, to do the things they've done. I'm a soldier. I've met my enemy after the battle, and a Marine. And I will tell you this. I've never held hate in my heart for him, even when I've had to pull the trigger on it, and I'm being honest and frank. But then you're failing in a lot more ways as a society, because may have fought for his beliefs and his thoughts, or maybe not, maybe just for what he considered was his nation state, capital S. And there was 2 states at that time, the United States and to fail to recognize your enemy's soldiers and their sacrifices in the sacrifices of our people. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
No, it does. In other words, because if you fail to recognize enemies, then you underestimate their ability to kill you. We have about 10 seconds before we got to go to the top of the hour break. When we come back, now I want to migrate over to the portion where we talk about current issues, and I'll go over some current issues and some stories, and I'll ask Kaiser to weigh in on some things. Please don't go anywhere. Thanks for watching the Bloviating Zeppelin. It is IBZ, BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where you can listen to me and watch me. And thank Sarge for this at Red Channel. I greatly appreciate it. And Kaiser and myself will be right back after this.
Conservative media done. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, media.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridiculing the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York. The Lid Hit Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night in her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed participating in competitive shooting and getting firearms training. It's not a boys club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing lineup. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic, concealed carry, and 2A girl. So what do you... Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackhead Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every week, live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the lapdog media and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud through SHR, the Western Free Radio Network. For
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SH Media Network.
The bloviating Zeppelin on BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where you can be heard. I don't know if you can be heard, but I can be heard on the Redcon 1 Media Network and also at the SHR Media Network. Thanks to Big Sarge for including me in the Redcon 1 Network to have Kaiser Schuff on the air. And we're going to go over some news stories and some things that you may or may not have heard before. There's about a, 2 or 3 minute cut, and Kaiser, I don't know this, you may have, but the lovely and curvaceous Michael Cohen, liar, has been testifying in the House Committee for the past 3 days now. He was on again today and was on yesterday. I don't know if you guys listen to Jim Jordan, representative, but the guy is sharp as a tack. And in this audio cut, I played it last night on Sackheads, but it deserves a replay, especially for the people at Redcon 1 who may not have heard. Tells you everything that you want to know in this audio cut about Michael Cohen.
Announced witness Michael Cohen. I want everyone in this room to think about this. The first in the 116th Congress is a guy who is going to prison in 2 months for Congress. Mr. Chairman, your chairmanship will always be identified with this, and we all need to understand what this is. This is the Michael Cohen hearing presented by Lanny Davis. That's right. Lanny Davis choreographed the whole darn thing. Loyalist, operative, Lanny Davis put this all together. You know how we know? He told the committee staff, he said the hearing was his idea. He selected this committee. He had to talk Michael Cohen into, importantly, he had to persuade the chairman to actually have it. He told us it took 2 months to get that job done, but here we are. He talked him into it. This might be the first time someone convicted of lying to Congress has appeared again so quickly in front of Congress. Certainly, it's the first time a convicted perjurer has been brought back to be a star witness. This is the first, because no other committee would do it.
Rep from my state of Ohio.
Think about this. With Mr. Cohen here, this committee, we got lots of lawyers on this committee. This committee is actually encouraging a witness to violate privilege. Mr. Chairman, when we legitimize dishonesty, we deal with this institution. We're supposed to pursue the truth. But you have stacked the deck against the truth, Inc., are going to be harmful to the President of the United States. And the answers to those questions are going to come from a guy who can't be trusted.
And you should look Elijah Cummings sitting right next to Jim Jordan, disdain on his face. But this this is where, again, we are in Congress.
Well, you remember they tried to take Jim Jordan out this last election.
Oh, yeah.
They had a bunch of former
kids
wrestlers.
and wrestling, right.
Well, they were wrestlers from OSU, and the wrestlers all banded together and said, no, that guy's lying, pointed it out that guy was lying. We had the lying on Kavanaugh. They're being exposed, BZ, and this is one thing that people need to take heart. And I didn't say I'm eating some filthy olives right now, but what I'm talking about, brother, is they tried to take him out because they knew he was a formidable opponent, and that's that this is being done with purpose, and they're lucky off presidential election cycle, or I don't think they would have taken back the House. But you look at what they put in during this election cycle. It should give everybody great pause because they're not socialist, ex-socialist. If everybody wants to look back all the way to Yemen, we can go back to East. All these countries in the Soviet satellites were democratic socialist countries. And that is communist.
Well,
so, folks, they've been duly elected. I can't take that away from them, but I do not know how they're absolutely getting fucked. When I saw we had a Maoist and his husband in office, Muchel and Barry, Bathhouse Barry in office, that says something too, that how does he, just because he's elected, access to a top secret security clearance? Why they do stuff like that. And those clearances, everybody who's ever held one, it's not that you happen to be a homosexual. Here's what it is.
No.
You may get blackmailed.
Yes, it's about and blackmail, which is another reason that they go into your financials as to be blackmailed. The honey trap, it isn't about homosexuality. It's also about, any kind of sexuality as well. That's an excellent point.
On your wife.
Yeah.
Under the UCMJ and I was about to say the ORC, the Ohio Code, which is Ohio's laws, but the USC, those are still on the book that they can yank your clearance. It doesn't mean they're going to necessarily prosecute you, but they can end your job administratively by yanking your clearance. And it's the same in Europe or anywhere near the wall. And you would have that where I was working.
Oh, yeah.
And you had to write a brush report.
Yes, exactly. You had to write a brush report, or you were in big trouble if you didn't.
They'll put you in prison over that shit. And I can't think about it. This is back in the 80s. It was a big deal. Oh, man, why can't I? Lone Tree. Okay. Sergeant Lone Tree. Okay. Yeah, Lone Tree. And that was a big issue because of he did compromise being blackmailed. He was a Marine at the Russian embassy. That's what it was. So this is all during that time. And people just fail to remember the reason why these rules are in place. Anyways, I'll shut up and let you talk, bro. I'm sorry about ranting.
No, that's okay.
But you hit my hot button.
Radio show on, I think it's called America First. Anyway, he's written a ton of books. And he wrote this article, folks, to Kaiser Schuff. Done a lot of time in the military, done a lot of great things for the United States. Discipline, sacrifice, a lot of stuff that we have in common. Anyway, this article is entitled Become Too Dangerous by Sebastian Gorka. You know, if you're not the First Lady, being alone in the Oval Office with the President of the United States is a rare occurrence. Even visiting heads of state will be accompanied by an interpreter or an official note-taker when they meet privately with the most powerful man in the world. So I'll never forget the day of the resolute desk with just President Donald Trump in the room with me. I was there for some. The president stopped, looked at me, and said, "They will find nothing because there is nothing." Now, since he shared that declaration with men such as George Papadopoulos have served time in federal prison as a result of their aggrandizing. Yet, none of the charges made or the convictions brought by special counsel Robert Mueller, the activities of the Trump campaign with the Kremlin, which, of course, was Mueller's mandate. 2 years at a reported cost of well over $25 million, not one charge or conviction has proven the original allegation of Russian collusion. At any other time, this would have led otherwise people to say something similar to "enough. Time for Mueller and his team, a dozen of whom are registered donors, to close shop and for the former FBI director to end what President Trump called a witch hunt." Instead, the left and the left's domesticated media have escalated their attack. As the president was preparing to board Marine One on the North Lawn, Kristen Welker, I should say, a member of the White House, actually asked President Trump whether he's working for Russia. This following a New York Times story, but Sebastian Gorka says we have to go further. First, there's the issue of facts. 2 years in which Donald Trump, as president, has raised the defense budget, sent anti-tank missiles to the government of Ukraine, scolded NATO nations, and encouraging them to keep their commitments to the alliance, as well as authoring the killing of more than 200 Russian paramilitary contractors in Syria.
Yep.
How can any sane personal integrity as a journalist, as former federal prosecutor Andrew McCarthy noted on my show, America, the FBI is part of the executive branch, and its mandate to execute investigation serves one person and one person alone, the president. McCarthy, remember, helped put the mastermind of the first World Trade Center, Rahman, the blind sheik, behind bars. As he's written time and again, counterintelligence operations are not exercises in evidence gathering designed to lead to a prosecution of a crime in a federal court. They're executive with information on what enemy nations or inimical non-state actors are doing to the country so the president can, be it from Soviet agents during the Cold War or ISIS terrorists here in America today. So this is happened in 2017. Instead, a rogue FBI decided unilaterally to investigate the newly elected in order to undermine him rather than serve the elected official who bears ultimate responsibility of all Americans. Never before in our history has this happened.
Yep.
The FBI has had problems since the days of J. Edgar Hoover, but never has the seventh floor of FBI by itself to launch a clandestine operation to target a newly elected president under the cover of working for an alien power simply because they wanted political revenge for their candidate losing happened. Instead of being horrified, the establishment situates the outre assertions day in and day out to further weaken the president. So what is to be done? There may be one solution that preserves the patriotic agents who are protecting the nation while helping drain the Beltway swamp. Listen to this. Just as President Trump had to actually say out loud, "My presidency do its very level best to make sure that we don't have socialism in America." That's a stultifying statement, but that's the state of the art. Dissolve the FBI. Fire all the senior political operatives in the Hoover building and make this way we may prevent another palace coup.
He's exactly right. SG.
What?
It's amazing that you're reading that. Look, everybody wants to know what the deep state is. Q, first off, is a psyop. I'm telling you right now, it's been a psyop for a long time. So all you Q people that are in there thinking Q is the real deal, it's been co-opted for about a year now. Now, secondly, what I'll state, it nailed it on the head. The deep state is nothing more than what's called the SES. The Special Executive Service. That's after your GS level as a Fed. You know what I'm talking about.
Right. It's like a higher division in the state of California, but I know the simile that you're making.
So what you have are unelected, unaccountable, really unfireable people. You think of try going after an SES. It's almost nearly impossible. Trust me, I've seen it. And the interesting thing is, he went into a meeting, and he says, this is what the president wants to do with this. We've been here going on 30 years now, and this is what we're doing, and this is why. He wants to do it this way, but we're going to continue to do it this way because this is the way it needs to be. See, that's how they undercut any president that comes in.
That's exactly correct, because as far as they're concerned, their thinking is, we've been here before, we've been be here again, and therefore we know how to handle this stuff best. Screw these.
Exactly, and able to still be alive, and I've never lost a client or anybody else I've worked with. And it's really frost my testicles over this shit because, excuse me.
After I heard the pop of the can, yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, I just popped one, brother. Irritates me that they have the unmitigated gall, what President Trump could have done because he went past 30 days. After 30 days, and I'm going to do this actually, he can now start thinning the herd. He can agencies start getting rid of things that are wasteful. And that's what a shutdown trigger after 30 days. That's why they never let him go past 30 days, and he let this one go past. Wilson, but Sebastian Gorka has nailed the lawyers, all of them, except for the contractors and the appointed investigators, special investigators. That's it. And they're just there as a contractor, in a quote-unquote contractor. They're not really a contractor, but you know what I'm saying, to do this.
Right.
And the mandate that Rosenstein gave Mueller was pre-handed. And you're right. The only convictions they could come up with, and they've all been, who cares? When they have to go over Manafort limitations, honestly, what's his name? Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos. He did prison. He went to a jail.
Positively, this is political. End of statement.
Yep.
But what I mention, I should say, in my first half-hour rant is, absent Donald Trump, the leftist Democrats and American media maggots hate him with every fiber of their being, is because he is than any prior president that I'm aware of, and people on his staffs surrounding him are speaking more truth. Figure this. Envision this. We got 3 more minutes, by the way, Kaiser, before the bottom of the hour break. Envision this. Absent President Trump, would we know a percentile of the heinous, underhanded crap that's been pulled by the LDAM? And I submit, no, we wouldn't know. 8 heads would still be in the sand. I have another cut that I'm going to play before the break. Again, another person speaking very bluntly and very plain. The press hate this, but listen to the honesty in this audio of, this is Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
That every single member of Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, have campaigned that they want border security. Democrats are playing political games, and they have to decide whether or not they hate the president more than they decide that they're going to fulfill the duty that they took when they took the oath of office and that they came in here to do. They all campaigned on border security. We hope that they'll hold his constitutional duty to protect the American people, and we hope they'll join with us.
Nailed it. Period. Nailed it.
But see, there's some spin there. I'll tell you why. Not campaign on border security. What they campaigned on was lack of security. Every one of them, the new, the new young hip ones, accidentally orgasmic cortex.
Right.
They campaigned on getting rid of ICE. And honestly, folks using AOC, because that is some way that bumps her up in that person all this credit, because I'm telling you, when you start falling into their things, like I said, she looks, her bug eyes prove that if she has an orgasm, it's accidental, and it really does affect her cortex. So just start calling her accidentally orgasmic cortex, and yet did you see her cutting the veggies? I know I'm drifting on this.
No, that's
but
okay.
Cutting the veggies.
Yeah.
Cutting the veggies.
I played that last night.
Okay, yeah, I saw that. That's right. I forgot about that, brother. So we're rehashing. I'm sorry, but we're on a different network, so we can handle this.
We can.
But they were cutting the daggone whatever it was she was cutting. You couldn't even tell really what she was doing. It looked like she was dumping it after she cut it too. It wasn't even like she was processing it to eat it, but lecturing us about how you have to have and how you should not have babies because babies,
they're a poor planet.
Yeah, they destroy it.
Yep. Okay,
so
folks.
Anyways, that's my 2 cents.
I come back. We're talking to Kaiser Schuff. And Kaiser, quick question before we go away for the break. Hang around for the end of the show?
Sure.
Okay.
Hang.
Great.
Doesn't bother.
Outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, when we come back after the break, I'm going to make a revelation. And I kind of hinted about this maybe a month or two ago. Didn't really come around and say it, but I feel I can say it now because now it's out in the media. And I'm going to give you a heads up. And I'm going to give you a heads up about Sacramento. I'm going to give you California. And I'm going to provide a heads up to you because I think that what I'm about to tell you when we come back after the break is potentially going to be some decisions that are up to you that may affect future your well-being. And I'm sure about this time you're thinking, boy, if break, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Join us for the right way. So join us Monday through Thursday.
Comes the show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. Girlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am in a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's Listen In and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
New show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. SHRmedia.com. Go there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people a lapdog media and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear, man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy, video on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in Occupy, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday. Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of conservative media done right. Listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's the final 25 minutes of the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio, live and direct from the SHR Media Studios, and also simulcast Redcon 1 Media. Big Sarge's Redcon 1 Media. Thanks for listening to me, and especially most of the people on Redcon 1 Not too many folks that I'm aware of, although I could be seriously wrong. On the West Coast, most of you folks are on the East Coast, and it's only 37 minutes after midnight, so if you're still hanging around, God, thank you very much. You are always welcome and always invited here in the Saloon. I'd tell your friends. Thank you ever
and
so
God
kindly.
Bless.
Yeah, you betcha.
And God bless Big Sarge.
Yes, and God bless you guys, men, women, everybody, because you're a small cadre of patriots, I fervently believe, that have nothing for this nation. This nation is enduring a critical time. It needs people like you to support Big Sarge, myself, representatives, your senators, the people that you think are doing the work, law enforcement, the military, and people making sacrifices, quite possibly like yourself as well, you listener, this country wouldn't operate. A soldier that keeps this nation free. This nation is completely believe this. This nation is the last best hope for the entire planet. It was an experiment. The experiment is always being challenged. No nation like this on the earth that goes to war, loses its men and women, and then doesn't occupy countries. I can't think of too many other nations that don't build empires. What its eyes look like. I know what its breath smells like, words it says, and so does Kaiser. On that note.
Yeah, here's the thing. First off, I'm no one and I do nothing. That's just the reality. I'm just a cog in the wooden empire. And I think Trump is trying to bring us back to a republic the way it should be. And unfortunately, I was a helper in that. And a cog in the whatever you use the term.
Everything is cyclical. So yeah, we get new presidents, we get a new Congress, we get new senators, and they all have their minuscule and major series of motivations, good and bad.
Yeah.
But in the larger scheme of things, there's like this. There is no.
No, you're and I. This is the normalcy of the two things. And I mean them both. The first prayer I say when I get out of bed is, put my feet where you want them today, God, Christ. The second thing I understand is that I'm never alone. My ancestors are behind me. And that means I'm never alone. And there's a long line of them in the house of new. And yet with this new thought process that our children, luckily not my son, my children have been indoctrinated with.
Oh, my God.
My son understands his ancestors and for every nation we've been in. And so when I say this, I mean it correctly. I've never gone anywhere where I'm more worried about what the people back home think. It's about the man to my left and to my right and not failing. And it could be a woman to my left or right. These are things that I think people don't understand that are important.
Understand camaraderie in a crucible. Things.
Yes, exactly.
Let me move on a little bit because I'm going to get very specific now. I said that, folks, I'm giving you basically there's some information in which I'm privy to that is saying that things are going to get very sketchy again in the distant future. And when I say not too distant future, because I don't specifically know a good reason for that, either this weekend, weekend after, or at the very most 3 weekends from now, but I would guess sooner rather than be experiencing civil unrest throughout the nation. This is my opinion. I can tell you, though, that start in Sacramento, because I know for a fact that Sacramento is preparing the SAC PD officers who shot Stephon Clark, and I'm not going to even go into the shooting. I'm not going to go into. I can tell you that I'm not going to call it a bad shoot or a good shoot. I'm going to call it a justified shoot. And you know, take those words as you will, because I'm bait the motherfuckers right now that are saying that, oh, it's, you know, been there and that. got it,
T-shirt,
etc. Don't care. That was last fucking year. Okay. I'm telling you now, though, City of Sacramento is bracing itself for an assload of coming. Sacramento County District Attorney Anne Marie Schubert is and the AG are going to release their independent reports on the Stephon Clark shooting. This is roughly about a year since that shooting in the jurisdiction of the Sacramento Police Department. Right. The Attorney General, Xavier Becerra, that's his name.
Yeah.
They're going to release their findings. I know it's going to come March 18th. This is going to be another excuse because we had this occur in Sacramento already. And what Sacramento County DA Schubert is not going to recommend charges for City of Sacramento police officers that were involved in this. And I believe that and Antifa, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. 2 people can keep a secret if it's dead, blah, 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 blah. They are looking for another excuse to Ferguson the crap out of the United States of America. So, folks, I'm telling you, I'm suggesting to you, I'm warning, is going to start in Sacramento, and it probably won't be the night of release of the information. It will probably start the next day at night under the California. I believe that those flames will also be ignited throughout the rest of the various forms, buttressed and supported, aided by BLM, Antifa, George Soros, and those minions. They're looking for an excuse to light this country on fire. They're about to get it. If I were you, and this is, I'm sorry if you live in one of these areas, live in what I term to be an urban rat cage, like Detroit or Los Angeles, any major leftist-run, high population, high density area, I'm suggesting to you to seriously cork off in these areas. Treat this as if you're about to encounter a tornado. My suggestions to you would be you might want want to have a certain amount of, just like me, trying to prognosticate a little bit. But I don't think that any decision is going to be met with hail fellow well met hugs and kisses and motor right along. There's nothing to see here. It's not going to play out that way.
At a 30,000-foot level. Jesse Smollett, that was in Chicago, right? Like cities that all of a sudden are having issues like this, okay? And the media race baiters are constantly going at it. We're lucky that Smollett was found out to be a fraud down.
Oh, that chief's speech, his 5-minute retort.
It's going down. That's one of these big Antifa pages. Also look at anti-racist action.
They're calling it Days of Rage. I'll tell you quite frankly, because I've been on those websites. You can go on them too, anybody else, but it's being quantified as Days of Rage. You know, folks.
It's a big clue. We reached right into the clue closet and grabbed it, brother. Here's the thing Here's the thing that makes me so incensed is that everybody thinks a conspiracy, theory. I did a whole video on the difference between conspiracy theory and what a conspiracy is, and sometimes one becomes the other, and that's a fact. But the purpose is, you have to find that grain of truth. Well, I agree with you on Sacramento. I've been watching this. And Sacramento, unfortunately, the left coast, that's been that way since I was young. And all the shit I saw in California, I remember bragging, this is no joke, and this would have been 8 years out doing a CAX in the Marine Corps at 29 Palms. And they were talking about, the assault weapons pre-ban and all this stuff, that what they were trying to do that became the assault weapons ban when Clinton took office.
Right, 96.
California kind of, 88, I believe it was sudden Columbus, the armpit, we have 3 of them. Yeah, most 2 armpits, we have 3. Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati, the 3C.
Yep.
And they were instituting the same thing like 2 weeks after I said that, and that's what caused me to start thinking. And the way to turn a liberal or a con is to get them to think, to isolate them from their echo chamber. Once I started thinking, wow. Now, I'd never voted for a Democrat. I called myself a Democrat. But the interesting thing is as I started seeing this kick back in the late 80s, I was like, there's something afoot here. I wasn't sure on it, but it took a while. Just while I was out at 29 Palms, or take their guns. And it made Rush Limbaugh, believe it or not. And no, most of us were like, no, man, we're not doing that. Well, I think while it's not as bad with the Army, Marines, and Navy, the Navy's 50-50 from the last time I saw it, because that's been pushed out again. But the Air Force is worrisome. It's 70% that say they would, 25% say they won't.
This is especially of concern for me, but the military, emergency responders, and law enforcement are no different from ween pool from which they're dipping. They're no better or worse pool from which they select their recruits and candidates. And different people today, and I can tell you that there are certain law enforcement agencies in California, I cannot tell you, you certainly probably can, much more insightfully than me, but I can tell you that they're all city police departments, because city chiefs are not elected, they are appointed, and it is a massively political position, especially in the state of California. And there are police departments that I question came to a shove. I unfortunately believe there are some officers who would do that. They have a concept.
I'm going to tell you why. I've seen what it looks like for a nation state to fail, okay? And I mean this. For 6 months, as the guy who came in there and is walking around, you're good. You're fine. Because everybody else is out. Tell me, ask Big Sarge sometime on your guys' Redcon 1 what it's like in Yugoslavia, failed Yugoslavia. When he went there, I believe that's where he went, if memory serves. And I could be wrong, Big Sarge, so look at what happened in Iraq in 2003. Give attack started on U.S. troops. Same thing with Afghanistan. And when we leave Afghanistan, don't think there won't be more retribution killings. ISIS did not form in a vacuum. And if you think America is any, unfortunately, that the other people can be convinced. There's no convincing them. You're not going to convince them. And I'm a political atheist now, pretty much. But what I will say is the bullshit stops when the hammer drops. And unfortunately, if people like me and others, we all talk about this crap, and we don't want to see it. Nobody wants to see it. If our hands are forced, our hands are forced. And, like I said, nobody wants to see what I think is coming. But I wouldn't doubt your time frame, because I've been seeing a lot of buzz, brother. And that's all I'll say on that.
It's time for us to wrap up. I want to leave with a quote, and you've probably heard it before, and most everyone at Redcon 1 has heard this quote before. This is from a person called Pastor Niemöller, and it's unfortunately every bit today as it was then. If you haven't, you read the novel by Eric Arthur Blair, otherwise known as George 1984. It is possibly more applicable now. It was in the 50s and 60s. It was written in 1947. And I want to leave tonight. First, I want to thank Kaiser. Thank you for being here tonight. Because of that, this is an incredibly important quote, and I'd like you to just mull it over. Pastor Niemöller wrote, and it's a quote, if I'm not mistaken, that's also in the Holocaust Museum in Los Angeles. And it goes like this. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out. because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because of the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And there was no one left to speak for me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Berserk Bobcat Saloon live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to find me on Twitter at BZEP, at BZEP, my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. My continued thanks to Redcon One Media for simulcast. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. Pratt & Whitney engines, thrust, you can trust. Tiaras are by My Little Pony. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team with whom I'm in less than an hour out of your busy day or night.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night.
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.